date is November 29th, 2024. My name is Mina. I am in 6th grade student at Temple Shalom of Norwalk, Connecticut. I will be interviewing my grandma, whose name is Steyer-Applestein, about her life and legacy. This interview is being recorded for the Oral History Archives of the Jewish Historical Society of Fairfield County, as well as our family archives. For the next 15 minutes or so, I will ask you questions that will help me learn more about you and our family's history, especially our Jewish history. Are you ready?
Sure, yes.
Let's start with you telling me your full name.
My name is Regina Steyer-Applestein.
Who were you named after, if you know?
I was named after my maternal and paternal grandmothers. And Regina is for my father's mother, whose name was Rachel. And my middle name, Sandra, was for my maternal grandmother, whose name is Sarah.
Do you have a Hebrew name, and what is it?
My Hebrew name is Rachel Bat Elchonen. That means that I am Regina, daughter of Elkan.
In this class, I've been learning about the immigration of Jews to the U.S. and other places. Do you know where your parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents immigrated from?
Well, myself, my parents, my great-grandparents, and many generations before that are all from the Netherlands in Europe.
Do you know anything about Jewish life there?
Well, I emigrated from the Netherlands to the United States when I was only 5, so I don't know a lot of how they celebrated, but they were Orthodox Jewish people. And so they went to services and they celebrated in the traditional ways.
Was anyone in the family directly affected by the Holocaust in Europe or by pogroms in Russia, Poland, or elsewhere? What can you tell me about it?
Well, I immigrated in 1953 from the Netherlands and immigrated into the United States. And what I really want to do is tell you more about my parents and grandparents who actually lived in the Netherlands and whose family for many generations lived in the Netherlands, but originally came from Belarus and in Germany, places like Frankfurt and Hamburg. Let me see, what were you asking me about that? Do I know where they came from? Okay, well, I think I answered that.
Yeah. Did you just answer that one right?
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, I'm just gonna, okay. So Mina wants to know if I have some kind of an object or family photograph that I can share. And I am going to share a photograph. Let me take it up closer so hopefully you can see that. And that is myself, my brother, and my parents in 1953 in January on a Holland America Line ship coming to the United States. And so I immigrated. My grandparents and great-grandparents and so forth did not. But I'll tell you the reason that we immigrated was that my parents and my brother lived through the Holocaust in World War II. And they wanted to start a new life and try to put all the terrible memories of the war and what they went through behind them. I lived in a family with 3 Holocaust survivors. My father was hidden in an attic for 3.5 years with his sisters, brother, parents, and an aunt. And my brother was a hidden child who was passed around and survived the war with a foster family. And my mother was in 14 concentration camps, which sounds unbelievable, but I have the list, and they're all the camps that you've heard of, and I'm sure you're learning about concentration camps, but she was in Auschwitz, Theresienstadt, Gross Rosen, Hochweiler. She went through all of them. She walked from some in the winter on death marches and so on. I will talk about that later if that is part of the interview. And so there you go. I have 3 people on my family that had some very, very life-altering, horrible experiences for the years 1940 through 1945. So, okay.
Now I'd like to ask a few questions about your life growing up.
Well,
where did you grow up and who lived with you growing up?
Oh, well, I think I should probably talk about my parents and my grandparents, because I was only 5 when I immigrated, and I assimilated into American life, so I grew up like everybody else did my age. So what I would say is that my mother, her name was Mina. Mina was named after my mother. And she had 4 brothers, a sister, their spouses, and there were 18 children among them. And my mother, so was part of a very large family, and she had to quit school in 6th grade so that she could work and bring home a little bit of money every Friday. In time, her father would wait on the corner of the block and take her earnings and go to the butcher and buy a chicken for Friday night dinner for the Sabbath. And that's one story that always comes to mind. And my father grew up in a small town, fishing town in north of the Netherlands, and he had to quit school in 8th grade to start working with his father. So.
When you were a teenager, did you have a bar mitzvah?
Well, I can say quickly, I did not have a bat mitzvah because at the time I went to Sunday school. Girls weren't really routinely having bat mitzvahs. I grew up in a conservative synagogue, and but my father was Orthodox, and so his family, did everything that Orthodox Jews do, including bar mitzvah.
Okay. Now, I would like you to pick your favorite Jewish holiday and describe how you and your family celebrated it when you were a child.
Well, I never met my grandparents, and in the Netherlands, they celebrated because they were Orthodox, and we celebrated until I was 5 in the Netherlands, and we celebrated all the Jewish holidays like normal because we were assimilated Americans. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'd like to talk about our family Jewish traditions. What are your favorite Jewish traditions? It could be making a special food, lighting Shabbat candles, dancing the hora at a wedding, or anything else.
Well, like I said, basically I grew up in America doing all of those things, and I always enjoyed Passover. But yeah.
Did anyone in your family serve in the military? If yes, you can tell me more. If not, we can move on.
I don't really know. I know my father was not in the military. We were in the Netherlands. And I don't think that anybody was ever in the military.
How did you meet my grandpa?
Well, we met in 7th grade, but I don't know how I like to talk more about my grandparents. And I don't know. I know how my mother met my father. She was a neighbor in Amsterdam, and yeah, so.
What did you do to make a living in your adult life?
Well, it's more about what my parents and grandparents did. I think my father worked with his father. They had a cart and a horse, and they sold household goods to people in North Holland, in Friesland, in a small town named Harlingen. And they moved to Amsterdam, and the family was selling products at a market with a cart and a horse. And then my father opened a small antique shop after the war in Amsterdam. And most people were tailors, just city people doing different kinds of jobs in stores, mostly shops.
Okay. Now we're going to wrap up with one more question.
Okay.
What advice do you have for future generations like me?
Well, I always thought that if you were good to others and did what you could to help others, that was a fine way to live your life.
Okay. Well, thank you for spending time to talk about
Welcome, Mina.